Hey guys, Jodie here from Decorative Vintage Designs, and I have a different kind of video for you guys today because I have two little helpers with me, my niece Amira and my lovely nephew Yusuf. Today we are painting their Nanan's dressing table in a boho farmhouse kind of style, and we are starting with sea spray. So Amira is going to put 2 scoops of sea spray into this plastic cup. Generally, you put around 2 scoops of sea spray to 8 ounces of paint, depending on how much texture you like, because this is a texture additive. It's going to give us lots of grittiness. And Yusuf is then pouring some lemonade into the cup. You can see I don't really measure, I just tend to go on with how it feels, and then we are giving it a really good stir. And all of the products I am using today, by the way, are Dixie Belle, including these chip brushes, which the sea spray and lemonade mixture has been stippled on with. And they both at this point told me their arms were getting tired, but I was like, you're fine, just crack on, you're fine, it's building muscle. I promise this wasn't free child labour, and they really wanted to do this. Yusuf has his own unique technique going on there, taking after his auntie. And yeah, we did the exact same thing to the top as we did to the rest of the piece as well. And at this point I thought, you know, I better step in and help here, because this stippling is actually quite tiring if you're not used to it. So I gave them a helping hand. Once that had dried, we went in with Farmhouse Green, which is this lovely soft green colour by Dixie Belle. And it doesn't really matter what brush you use for this part or how well that you actually apply it. The idea is that it's going to be quite rustic, so we're just kind of very roughly applying this over the lemonade texture there. I wanted the pulls to look part of the piece, but for this next part I had to remove them. I'm not going to worry about the little bit that's not painted there, because that's going to be covered with decoupage. Barney also interrupted us to give us some very much needed puppy cuddles. Okay, so we have Amira doing some decoupage here now, and Yusuf is taking over as cameraman. So what Amira is doing here is she has just applied some clear coat, which is going to act as a glue, and we're just getting some of that decoupage paper in place on the drawer base there, just making sure it's nice and smoothed over. Because this is quite a rustic look, it doesn't really matter if there's any crinkles, and it's also perfect for kids because this kind of look is kind of crazy, rustic, imperfections make perfections, that kind of thing. It's a perfect kind of style to do with kids. So once we had applied that, we went over the top with more clear coat, and then with a little bit of 120 grit sandpaper we went around and just sanded those edges to remove the paper. It makes it a little bit easier if the paper is a bit damp already with the clear coat. It just makes it pull off a bit easier. If you want a nice perfect finish, you can always use a Stanley knife or measure it beforehand. But again, because we're going for this kind of farmhouse Mediterranean style, it doesn't really matter that we make those kind of imperfections. And the decoupage that I'm using here today is the Whimsical Mediterranean decoupage paper, the rice paper by Dixie Belle. And to finish it with, we then just used a little bit more of clear coat just to get that sealed. We then did a switcheroo, and Yusuf is now helping me with the bottom drawer with this decoupage, and Amira is now cameraman or camera lady. And they were such good sports, guys. I honestly thought they would get bored after an hour. They'd probably do the stippling part and then their arms would be tired and I'd put them off for the rest of the day. But they actually really got stuck into this, and it just shows how kind of relaxing and fun, you know, this kind of quality time spent with kids can be, you know, especially because painting helps them just get into their kind of fun zone. But yeah, they work so hard. I hardly did anything on this piece. I just showed them what to do and they just went for it. They went for the painting, they went for the camera, and they were just awesome. So just like we did before, we are sanding the decoupage paper to remove those edges, and then just going in with some more clear coat just to make sure those edges then that are left behind are nice and stuck down. So it is the flat clear coat from the Dixie Belle range that I am using, and we're just making sure that this paper is nice and glued. I'd love to know as well, guys, whether or not you've painted with kids before. You know, your sons or daughters, granddaughters, grandsons, nieces, nephews. Have they ever helped you paint before? And if so, let me know how it went in the comments below. So once the clear coat had dried, with my 120 grit sandpaper, I just very roughly went over the decoupage paper and sanded it. And this is just to make the decoupage paper look old and worn, and all of that sea spray texture underneath will start to peek through. And I also went around the edges a little bit. So you can see now why I'm not too worried about the fact, you know, that none of this is about perfection, and that if things go wrong, it is absolutely fine. I put the pulls back on, and I also start to distress them a little bit. So you can see why I had to kind of leave them on to paint them and then take them off to do the decoupage paper. It would have made it a lot more difficult having left the decoupage paper on there. But as soon as they're on, I just start to rough them up a little bit as well to make them look as distressed as the rest of the piece. And then all three of us got on the action, and we just started distressing this piece like crazy to give it that authentic aged look. One of the kids actually got a screwdriver and started scratching it, and I was like, whoa, what are you doing? But actually it worked really well. It gave it this really cool scratchy look. So then all three of us actually used some screwdriver heads as well, just to create, to help distress the piece even more and make it look even more scratchy. So to finish up this piece, Yusuf applied some clear coat as a base all over this piece, but we worked in sections, and then once he had applied that, Amira went in with some black wax, and that's to add even more age to the piece, but it would also seal the piece as well. And here's the finished look. So we had an awesome time painting. Not only did they get a fun day of painting, I got some help, and my mum, their nan, also has this amazing piece that's being painted by her grandchildren now. Let me know what you think in the comments, and as always, have a great time painting. Take care, and bye bye.